I was going to be that gold watch person. I would be somewhere for 45 years, and that was my plan, because that was, that is what my parents had done as well. And I thought, well, if you're going to go out there, I thought, what problem am I going to solve? Because I think that's a big thing with entrepreneurs now, is that they get out there and there's so much romanticizing out on Instagram and social media, people with this hashtag boss babe or things like that, where there's these stylized photos of people just, killing it.
We are looking forward our way from Studio C in the 511 studios in the Brewery District just south of downtown Columbus. Hi, this is Brett, and with me, as always, is Carol. Dear listener, if you've listened to most of our episodes over the past year and years, we've had some great opportunities to delve into the issues of small businesses in Ohio. Who owns them, how to get them started, how to grow them, and how or when to even close them.
We've had some great conversations, and everyone knows small businesses are the lifeblood of the American economy, so it's an important topic. But in today's markets, small businesses are suffering. And a few weeks ago, we were participating in an event with the Tri-Village Chamber Partnership, and our shout out to the partnership. They're wonderful folks. But during this event, we had an opportunity to meet Jamie Barlett, who is the CEO and founder of a company called PolyPay. Jamie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. Hello.
Yeah, we're going to discover more about your company, PolyPay. However, let's first take a look at your background. What experiences did you have before starting your own business? How were those experiences critical to building your skills to actually take a leap and create a business?
Sure. I grew up in the Midwest, and I came out to California after college for my real first grown-up work experiences. So I never thought I would be in the entrepreneurial space at all. I immediately went to start work for a startup, and I'm dating myself there, but before the dot-com bubble burst. So I worked for about a year in a marketing capacity for a dot-com that lasted about a year and then exploded. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I actually went back to school and got my MBA over in Pepperdine. And I got one of the first ethics-based MBA programs in the country, which was very pivotal for me about how to approach business as an individual and as a fiduciary and for those people that you work for. And then after that, I actually ended up going to work in consulting for a very large international consulting company that has about 120,000 people as employees. So I actually went from down in the LA area where I was working initially up to San Francisco. They had me come up to San Francisco, and that was a great opportunity for someone who was young, really didn't know what they were going to do. I had about 6 or 7 jobs over the course of about 5 years working for them. So and this is me coming from Wellesley College. I had a degree in economics and English, so I was both the capitalistic sellout, one side of the college was saying, and the other side was, what are you doing sitting under a tree reading Shakespeare? And I thought, well, I want to do both. How can I do both?
You have painted an imagery there. Wow.
I was very much, both departments did not like me whatsoever. They just were like, what are you doing? And I go, I think I have like a split personality. I'm not sure.
This is why Jamie and I get along so well so immediately. My PhD is in sociology with a minor in business. And everybody kept saying to me, what are you doing?
And I'm make up your mind.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
But how much easier to see organizational behavior and design from both a business perspective as well as social science.
Absolutely, yes. And I just thought, well, look, I understand economics and business, but also I think the big thing was back then, people that were great at business couldn't communicate.
Right.
They may be a great, financial brain. They knew the numbers, but talking to some of these people, I thought, you can't talk your way out of a box here. I mean, They could literally not write, nor could they educate somebody else in their department because they knew it in their brain, but they could not get it out in a way that people could understand. So that was at least my selling point too. My parents were both going, what are you doing? What's happening? I go, it was funny because my mom was an English teacher in high school, and then my father was a banker for years and years and years and years. So maybe it was a silent way to appease both of them, but I was playing both sides of the street. So I don't know, but that's why I kind of found myself in San Francisco working in consulting. I thought, well, maybe I'll figure out what I want to do. And I was immediately thrust into high tech. I didn't know a thing about high tech at all. I mean, here I am. I knew my, X and Y axis, guns and butter. They teach you supply and demand for economics, And then here I am, and I got to work for Cisco, Hyundai, Kaiser Permanente, Pacific Gas and Electric. I went everywhere for all these jobs. So it was like I got paid to kind of learn to be in these different tech industries, which was fascinating. And I eventually jumped ship, as one does in consulting, for actually Pacific Gas and Electric utility over in San Francisco. And then I ended up working for them for about 5 years as well in a variety of capacities, leadership development, HR. I got to do union work. So I got to do a bunch of stuff around there. But I think the precipice for the entrepreneur side was I realized that I just wasn't actually happy anymore in a large company. It just, I'm very risk averse. I thought I would be just fine walking into the cubicle with my little briefcase and clocking in and clocking out and going home. And I just was responsible for my own sphere, and that would be fine. And I think in your question, Brad, about the environment, or what was sort of maybe a tipping point for me too, was I had enough, unfortunately, bad bosses that I had learned, if I ever did hang out my own shingle and become something, I knew how to not be a bad boss. I had spent enough time in a bad environment where, unfortunately, there were a lot of younger people like me working around me, and we were trying hard to make suggestions, try and talk to management, and people were just not having it. They they kind of, unfortunately, they viewed it as a threat. We were just trying to, they were at the same time trying to attract younger talent, but they were not listening to us. They reviewed all of us. Oh, you're young. You don't know what you were talking about. Or some of them, in fact, felt threatened and were like, just leave it as it is. It works. It's not, if it's not broke, don't fix. If it's not, whatever I'm saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That was the issue I had. And I thought, I can't. It was stifling. You couldn't get anywhere. There were a lot of unhappy people. And I got to a point where I was driving to work every day. And I used to live down in Redwood City, and I'd drive into the city every day. I would have panic attacks. I did not want to physically go into work. And I finally realized at that point, I don't want to be here anymore. When your environment is just that negative and not nurturing, I thought, I think I actually have to go do something else here. And that's when I actually really started considering to start my own business.
But you had, because of timing, when the economy it had too many workers.
Yes.
As opposed to now,
right,
when there were so many people out there, it was hard to get opportunities.
Oh, yes.
And so when you did get those, though, you were also on cutting edge, learning new technologies.
Yes.
And I mean, I remember a job that I had with the state of Ohio. I suddenly got thrust into becoming project manager for a $20 million computer program. And I'm like, I had no clue, but you learn.
Yes.
You learn, you get in, and you do it, make it work.
Yeah, one of my first projects in consulting was I was up in San Jose, and they dropped me in the middle of Cisco in the middle of their heyday and said, "So you're going to work on migrating our data center?" I said, "What? I'm an English major. What are you talking? What? I can use a laptop, but but suddenly here you were. You didn't have a choice. That you were front line. You were kind of, for lack of a better phrase, you were the cannon fodder. You're going to go in, we're going to figure it out, we're going to bill for you, and we're going to start working on a project." And so you just kind of learn to just go, okay, follow the leader, and we'll figure it out.
Well, and I know with me, I was lucky to have the resources behind me. Mm-hmm. They didn't have enough people to get the work done at the time, but we were cannon fodder, but we got the job done.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, your company, which is PolyPay, based in California, give us a little bit of an overview on the steps you took to decide on the industry you wanted to tackle. It's a credit card processing company.
Yes.
As opposed to any other activity. So tell us a little bit about PolyPay and sort of how you decided to create that.
So when I kind of finally made the decision in my mind that I was going to do something on my own, which was a huge thought for me. My parents were shocked. They thought, this is Jamie's going to be, I was going to be that gold watch person. I would be somewhere for 45 years, and that was my plan, because that was, that is what my parents had done as well. And I thought, well, if you're going to go out there, I thought, what problem am I going to solve? Because I think that's a big thing with entrepreneurs now is that they get out there and there's so much romanticizing out on Instagram and social media, people with this hashtag boss babe or things like that, where there's these stylized photos of people just, killing it supposedly. And I thought, okay, well, that's all well and good, but are these people really thinking about what process or service am I going to offer that somebody's going to have to exchange their hard-earned dollars for? So I thought long and hard. I thought, well, I know a bit about finance. I work well with people. And so I kind of looked to my dad a little bit. He had been a banker, as I said, for many, many, many years for a bank that doesn't exist anymore, National Bank of Detroit. And he was running the trust department for many years. And he had instilled this strength and belief in me about, be a fiduciary for someone. Be sure you take care of somebody. If you ever work with someone's money, you need to take care of it. They've worked long and hard. He managed people's generational wealth. He goes, you have to respect that, how hard they've worked for that. I thought, well, what's something with that? And he actually, for a while, did actually work for MasterCard for a few years. So I knew a little bit about the credit card industry. He was sort of in operations for them. So I thought, well, how do I put those two together? And as I looked into the industry more, again, still kind of had a tech, had a consulting background, had a problem-solving background finally that I had honed. And I thought, well, what about the payment processing, the credit card industry? I thought, that sounds like a horrible industry. I mean, everywhere I read, there were just these bad actors. People, all I could read were bad reviews of people. They felt taken advantage of. And I thought, well, how hard would it just be to go out there and be like, oh, I'm going to be the good person and just take care of you and not rip you off and answer the phone? I thought, well, let's try that. So that's kind of how PolyPay was born.
That's interesting. And I love your quote saying, what problem are you going to solve? Because we have, from the career counseling side of me, always told our clients, you're getting hired by an employer because they have a problem and you're going to solve it. So you have to think in terms of a resume that shows that you're going to solve their problems.
Yes.
But I hadn't thought of it from a perspective of starting a business.
Yes. And I think so many people, and it's a crowded industry. My industry is very crowded. There's a lot of very big operators, a lot of mid-size operators. There's operators that are my size as well. But I think it's just very much at the end of the day how you're taking care of. Like everyone says, well, how is it, how are you any different than others? And this is literally a business where it's a half a penny sometimes gets you a contract, because it depends on if they have 50,000 transactions going on. It's amazing how much a half a penny can add up at the same time.
Right.
So the numbers never lie. That's one thing, but it sounds trite. But the big thing is the customer support, the actually being honest and not raising rates, and being there when being on the other side of the phone. I mean, I know it sounds trite, but that's what to this day has kept us having our first customer still almost 10 years later.
But it's also where a lot of people try to entice folks to create their own business. There's a lot of counselors out there who want to make sure that you get your start in doing a business, I've always heard it where, what is your interest? What is your passion? So it's very much a individual perspective. What do I want to do? I've never heard it in terms of creating a company where you're really thinking of the problem that your clients have that you can solve. So it's really a different perspective that I think is kind of key and could be advantageous to an individual who wants to create a business. They could, if they, to see it from both sides. Yeah, you want to be interested. I mean, if you're not interested, you're not going to stick with it.
Yeah, and like they say, if you love what you do, you're not gonna work.
Not really working, right.
And I think if you like being a problem solver, which I did from being, I think honing that from consulting and whatnot, you have to tackle X number of tasks. And I thought, I just like solving problems, and this work and this business is like tackling problems for customers every day, and I love it. No day is the same as the the previous, which is what I love too.
Well, small businesses are at risk nearly every day, and the rate of success is so low. That's where I'm kind of coming from. Like, how do we make people more successful? And boy, from the very get-go, really thinking about what you're creating is so important.
And I think people, it makes it look so easy. I think especially in terms of the pandemic as well, which I think is great about the U.S. I mean, there's a lot of people, even I have a lot of friends I've met that literally through the pandemic, they decided midway, like, I'm done. I'm going to start my own business. I thought, God, give them credit. At least I started my business in a pretty decent economy at the time. And I thought, well, God, more power to you. But that's what I love about the U.S. and the Midwest in general. I mean, people seem to forget that, they look at the coasts, I think, and they don't realize all of everything that's in the middle of this country, how many small businesses there are, how many multi-generational businesses there are. There's so much to learn from people like that. So I think I just want entrepreneurs to think about the fact that, you have to really be serious about, just because it looks cool or it's neat and you think it looks easy. I mean, it's never good. It's going to be uglier more days than it is, at the beginning. Right. And again, you have to figure out how someone, I'm fortunate in my business. My goal is to actually save you money every month. So they shouldn't be putting out any money with us. So we have a unique offering in that sense. But in the more traditional sense for entrepreneurs, you really have to think about, why is someone going to pick you? And I didn't have any sales for a few months, and I was really scared. And I thought, why aren't they going with me? And I'm like, Jamie, why would they go with you? You've been around literally. You're like a fetus.
A nanosecond.
Yeah, you've been around, you're like a fetus. You're not even walking right now. You're still floating in the gestational period here. Like, why would they pick you? And it's like, oh, okay, let's think about your peers who have been in the industry 60 years, 50 years. Why the hell would they not? So it was a reality check for a few months. I had to realize, all right, I have really got to convince somebody. It's kind of like that parent that says their kid is the best looking kid and they're smartest and the nicest. And I thought, but I'm the best. And no, that's not realistic, Jamie. So it was humbling. And then you have to really start to turn around and say, you have to put yourself in the boots of the customer and go, why would they pick you versus another 50 of you down the road?
Right.
All right. You decided to start your own business and you knew what you could create and be successful. There had to be surprises, challenges. On top of you deciding to grow the business in Ohio and in other states, coupled with, did you feel that being a female in the business world made it harder as well too? That's a lot to answer there, but
yes.
Those bits and pieces of those challenges.
Yes, I think that we had a multitude of challenges in our business. You typically, as what they call a independent sales office, you partner with another processing partner who actually helps you with the financial transactions in the background between the bank and your customer's bank. So it was like a couple years of bad dating. We had a couple partners that we picked that I thought, well, they have a marquee name. They sound trustworthy. But at the end of the day, I didn't like how they treated us. I didn't like how they treated or delivered for our customers. And I thought, I want somebody whose mission is going to align with ours about transparency and support. So the first couple years were very difficult. We went through a couple different processing partners. We finally settled on some great partners that we've had since 2016 who have the same focus and support and mission to their operations. And I think we had a multitude of people that came and worked for us. They came and went very quickly, a lot of people who didn't seem to understand the whole you have to show up 5 days a week thing. You can't work remotely. I know I don't do cold calling. You can't sit at your desk at home and make phone calls. You actually have to get out there and do that. No, you can't start working with me and 2 days later tell me you need 2 weeks off for Coachella. Things like that. So there was definitely a bit of a spinning door for about a year and a half of people that just didn't. I think they saw it as something else. Maybe they didn't understand sales, but I think I needed people that really believed in this, aligned. Again, another issue of aligning your goals for the company and the people you have. And now I'm so grateful. The past few years have been just a dream, and we've had the most amazing, wonderful people. I have a few people that have been with me 8 years, 7 years, and it's just been fantastic because I can tell that I don't worry. As my joke is, if I get hit by a bus, I know they can be out there representing PolyPay, and I'm not going to worry about it because they hold our standard high and they represent us well.
So we have to give them a shout out.
Yes, absolutely, yes. No, I love all of them very much. Ross and Ryan and Doug and all of those great people that work for me. So it's been fantastic, but that was difficult. Yeah. And I think the if I'm addressing kind of the women aspect, Brett, I definitely would say. This is an industry, especially with very few females in it.
I was going to ask
very
that
few females.
I don't know the players at all, but you hear anybody talk about this field. So,
I think.
wow.
I think.
Was that an advantage though?
I think it was interesting.
turn into one?
It was definitely like when. And what the funny thing is, the playoff of my name. My name looks masculine.
Okay.
And its spelling, because
Right.
I was named after my dad. So it's funny, you'd have interactions with people over email. And, maybe they didn't look. I'm on the website. You can look at me. There I am. But sometimes they didn't look at that. I'd show up at a networking event and kind of there was initial, oh. I was like, surprise, which was kind of fun. That was a little advantageous. But
Yeah.
but there weren't a lot of, as I said, ISO owners like me. I think years ago, I was one of 8 entities like that in this payment processing space that were owned by a woman west of the Mississippi. So there was very, very few. And you do see some women that are in the sales capacity, but I've only seen a handful of women that have been at least in a C-suite role or even like a president or something like that over the past 10 years. There is still a dearth of women in this industry, which I think is a shame because women are great salespeople, excuse me. But they're great salespeople, and I think they just don't know that. And I have to be honest, I have referral advocates that are women, but I don't have any full-time salespeople that are women. I've had a couple over the years, but they have choose to move on for whatever reason. But yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, and it's
Right.
surprising. So I think sometimes people look at me and go, "Well, hypocrite." And I go, I'm trying. I'm open to any. I'm a meritocracyst. I believe in a meritocracy. So male, female, whatever it is, it's whoever is good for the job. But it would be great to see some more women in the industry for sure. I think it's getting better. It's getting better.
It's good. Right. So you're moving multi-state. Was that just you want to be closer to home as well too, or that's a jump?
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
that's East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country.
Yes.
Feel to
yes.
this.
And so I had, after leaving, tech and consulting, San Luis Obispo, actually, I had family there, which was kind of middle of the state. And so I decided to start my business there because the town actually was a really great way to test it out. It's one of those small towns, and maybe you could even say, it's much smaller than Columbus, but I would say it's one of those towns where they're old school enough that if you do a good job, everybody knows. And if you do a bad job, everybody knows. So I thought, well, here's a way to test my net worth here to see if I can pull this off, then I must be doing okay. So we were there for many years, and then through referrals or merchant referrals, we grew to about 11 states as we're at right now. Oh. And about a year and a half ago, I thought, you know what, I want to go back to where my family is. So I had no more. My parents were deceased. And they had been in California with me, and the rest of my family is all in Cleveland, Indianapolis, Akron area. And I thought, you know what, I just want to go back and be closer to family. And I thought, well, I knew nothing of Columbus. I'd read about it. I thought, what a great town. It was growing. There were so many small businesses. There was always something to do. And I think probably secretly my family was pleased because they're like, all right, she's close, but she's not too close, right? Like she's 2 hours away, but if she gets irritating, she can go, and I'm sure they think that for me, I'm sure.
Safe zone.
So it's a safe zone, like you're family adjacent, right? Is that the phrase? Like you're not down the street, you have to really think long and hard. If you want me to come, I'll come, kind of thing. So I'm sure they appreciate the space about that. But really, Brett, I just want to be closer to family.
Yeah,
And I thought Columbus, the more I visited a few times, I thought, what a great town. I mean, this town has endless runway to it and the energy. And I have to be honest, and it's not a knock on California, far more open people. I mean, sitting down and talking with people and tentatively, I moved here about a year and a half ago and I finally started doing some networking really only about a year ago. It took me a while to really consider, should this be home only or should this actually be another frontier for us? And I couldn't believe how open people were. It was almost like I thought it was like, where's the camera? Because
or what's the catch?
Because California, it's like, everyone's walking down the side, don't talk to me, don't talk to me, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. And when I sat down and started going to chamber events or other things, and people genuinely asked, what do you do? And I was like, what? Is this where I talk now? Okay, like I was like, this is great. So that was very refreshing and very reinvigorating for me, for my business as well. And I thought it was almost like getting to start over, but you knew all the tricks. After 10 years of mistakes and issues, I felt like I got a do-over in the universe. I thought, I can start a whole new, greenfield opportunity. But now I knew all the don't make this mistake, don't do that. It's like I had all the, arrows in my quiver to make sure that I followed the right way to work with customers for sure.
I'm always I'm always amazed when we get into the podcast because Brett and I always say, we always learn something new. And even though you and I have had conversations, I've gone through the questions and all, it's like, this is a really complicated industry.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It is. And it's much bigger than I would have thought. I figured there were like 3 companies out there that do it. And
oh, no.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And people that only cater to certain industries or verticals. Right. And fortunately, we touch everything. And that's also the problem being in this industry. It's like you never turn off your light because it's like wherever I go somewhere, I'm like, what are you using to take your car? It's like you never turn off. And that's also it's a business development problem for me because that's why, thank God, what's the line? You hire people smarter than you to work for you. So thank God, because they keep me in line, because I'll come back in. I'm like, what about this? And they're like, all right, James, we're already spread this thin. I'm like, what about this vertical or this vertical? And they're like, look, we know everyone takes cards. Let's just focus on like where we could be of best value. So they rein me back in, which I appreciate. So. Yeah,
we need to meet your team.
They're amazing. I adore them. I'm very lucky, but I feel like I earned them. After it's like kissing too many frogs, and then I got a bunch of
it sounds
princes.
as though you did. You
Yeah,
went through your bumps and bruises to get them. No, that's good.
But,
yeah,
but
I was in the trenches for a while, and then
Sure.
But it's also, they sound like an incredible team, not just to keep you in line, but in terms of grabbing this industry. I mean, I am fascinated. As a nonprofit administrator, I was dealing with that credit card stuff all the time. Luckily, our computer person was really good at helping me work through that. And before that, I was with, state service or the university. You don't have to worry about those issues.
No.
It's amazing.
And it's such a critical component of any size business,
of
small
a business.
or not. And they just kind of gloss over it when they try and pick something. They're just like, pick something and go, and then they don't realize they're in the quicksand.
Right, right. So, okay, one of the hardest discussions is money. We have to always deal with, how do you get the resources you need for your business? When you got this going, tell us what you discovered. Is it more difficult to get funding as a female-owned business, as a female business owner? Were there funding issues because of the type of business you were creating? How do you secure those special loans? Did you have to do something okay, my house is up for sale now?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Here goes the car. Here goes all of that. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I was fortunate. I had some savings set aside, so I had some things that I could work with. But I was very, very tight to begin with. I had people that joined me were very much on commission. I had to put a lot of my funding towards registering the business with like MasterCard and Visa. You have to kind of do that to be certified. So that was a big cash outlay. But there were a lot of resources. There were some, small business opportunities. Some you didn't. I was lucky. Maybe it was back then. A little bit of the female aspect, the women aspect helped, but also I think being in a smaller town. They were very much receptive to having somebody being in their small town that was going to start a business that was, because there weren't very many in that city. It was very much agricultural, very much tourism. So they were like, wow, a tech finance company that wants to be here. So they were very amenable to helping me as well to get started and to put a foundation in to start the business with. So I felt like I was pretty fortunate. It was a bit arduous. You had to trade a lot of information. You kind of had to tap dance. And it was like a talent show, right? It's like who's gonna be the loudest, who's gonna stand up the most, and that's who walked away with funding and whatnot.
Well, and that, listeners too, don't forget that we always put a list of resources in our show notes for each of our podcasts, and we're going to include some of that information because Ohio does have some really good groups that are here at your need to help you start your own business, and the state of Ohio's small business development centers, that those services are free. And they have the information on how to get financing. So you need to do your homework, know what you're doing, but utilize the resources that we have in our community.
And I think I've been fortunate to meet with the Ohio Women's Coalition.
Right.
And they are amazing. They right off the bat, I think they got in their less than their first year. I think they got $8 million in funding from the governor for women's businesses. So yeah, that's amazing. I think that was one of my first entry points here. I thought, wow, there are some go-getters here. I thought,
Right.
wow, yes,
Right.
yes.
Right. Our podcast focuses on the success of those 15 over. So when you look back on your own journey as a small business owner, did you see issues arise due to age? Not aging you, but your age, whatever it was at the time you felt pushback or success, or too young or too old? Did you see ageism, I guess you could say, one way or the other?
I think too, being a bit older when I started my business, and I thought, let's hire people right out of the gate, college students, recent graduates. I think that, again, and I don't want to hit out on a generation versus a generation thing, but that's where I ran into those issues with people that just sort of didn't understand what I felt was the traditional expectation in work. Again, about 5 days at work, and like we have to dress professionally, and yes, you got to work a while before you ask for days off. So there was a little bit of confusion there for me about, I thought, I know I'm older, but how much there, I just thought there were some universal truths to starting a business that I thought were still were across the board for all generations. And apparently I was a little bit surprised in that.
And some of that could have been just the mindset that, hey, this is my business.
Right.
I'm putting in the time. I expect you to do at least expecting 5 days.
Yes.
I think there is that mindset too, that if you don't own the business and you're working for someone, you're going to, not everyone, but you're going to try to pull as much as you can.
Right.
She's going to give me 4 days out of 5.
Yes.
I get my fifth day.
Yes.
I think there's a little bit of that. I mean, there's a totally different mindset when you own the business.
Yes, I think that too. And I think I'd say another kind of maybe, and finally I'm getting hip with the social media and all of this. I am such a Luddite with this. And thank God to Renee, wherever you are listening. She has brought us into that. You can literally tell in our Instagram, like, when loser Jamie was attempting to try to do this, and then Renee came on, they're like, wow, this went utter crap to like branded and beautiful and colors, and logo was here, and like there was animation, and I was just like, I didn't know how do you repost something? I was like, I had no clue what was happening. So still to this day, I mean, unfortunately, my team laughs at me. Here I am. I've been running a payment processing company for almost 10 years. I just started using Apple Pay like six months ago, like the tap to pay. They're like, we've offered this for years. I'm like, I know, but I still like to take my card out. And they're like,
exactly.
Oh. I'm the old lady that literally still goes to the bank and gets cash at the counter.
Oh,
like I don't have an ATM card.
At least I have that.
No, I have that. Oh, thanks, Carol. God, I felt that. That hurt.
You and I don't. I've never really got into ATM cards.
Thank you.
Guess I just haven't.
I am literally that old lady that was like, I would like $200, and the woman at the counter rolls her eyes and is like, we have an ATM. I'm like, do you have something? You're here. I'm here.
Yeah, the
You've
lineup
clocked in, right?
Yeah, the lineup behind me. Wait a minute.
Is there no
is
money?
No lineup behind me.
Is there no money back there, or is it only in the ATM? I'm like,
here's my card.
I know.
No,
I think I'm a Luddite in that aspect, and so they love to tease me about that. They're like, we've offered contactless for literally like 5 years, and they literally, before I went on a trip, one of my first vacations in years, they had to show me. They're like, are you going to download this? And they're like, don't tell anyone. And now I'm obsessed with it. Now I'm like, well, that's a bad thing too. It's just, now it's so easy to buy stuff. I'm like, sure, ping, 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 ping. And you're like, oh, Amex when you look at it.
ATMs to me are magic. It's like...
there's a fairy tale creature back there just going, here.
Exactly, and it's free money. Yeah. I don't have to do anything for it.
Jeez.
Yeah, my mom
We need to delve into that statement there, Carol, too. I don't know. Didn't have to do anything for it.
I just put my card in. It just pops out. It's magic.
But all that hard work you got to put it into the magical box to
beside
then
the point.
take it out.
That's beside the point.
That the little fairy tale creature,
But
like Tinkerbell's back there, and there's just some... like some dust comes out with your 20s.
Exactly.
Like, have a wonderful day.
So my joke in college, Fifth Third had the genie machines. I don't know if they're still called
Oh,
genie.
yeah, I remember that.
No, I'm not sure. What is this?
And so Fifth Third's ATM were called Genie, and it wasn't the genie in the bottle or anything like that, but it was just I don't no idea why, but I would always
Could have been.
It could have been. I don't know. I don't recall. But I recall just saying, "Yeah, I got to go tickle Jeannie for some money."
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh,
This was
man.
prior
And
to.
everybody's looking at me going, "That's a great idea." So it goes to that.
This
Where's
became
the
one
money
of
come
those.
from?
This just became one of those podcasts after dark kind of things. I think. This
I told
just
you
took a
we'd have
turn.
fun.
What's the rating on this right now? Wait a minute. Is it going to have one of those
we're
little
pushing
E's on it?
PG-13
Yeah, is there
now.
going to be a little E on it next to it when? Please click. You are old enough to listen to this
Right,
podcast.
yeah.
That's right.
Oh my goodness
But I love
gracious!
that. I love that
Yeah,
phrase, though,
yeah,
Brett. That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Because that was, I don't know, remember what it was called. Remember you had the vacuum tubes at the ATM. Remember where you drop off?
Some banks still have those.
they Oh,
they
yeah,
do.
they're the branch of the credit union that I use. They've got it. My son's never saw that before. And he's freshman in college right now, and we go to the drive-through during COVID.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
he goes, "That's cool." I said, "I know." It is.
It's like those tubes with the. Is there a hamster in there or whatever?
Exactly.
You know, that's
yeah.
yeah.
Or you go into the old stores
Yes.
that have not been rehabbed totally, and you see the tubes.
Oh yeah.
Still exist.
Yes.
In
Yes.
old buildings. You
One
don't
of-
see them all that often, but it's like that was cool. Yeah.
One of our local banks built a new branch close to my house, and the way the property was situated, the ATM and the drive-through couldn't be close to the building. It's
Oh,
away.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
they built the pneumatic
Mm-hmm.
tubes underground.
Ooh.
So the first time I go through, it got stuck.
Of course.
Oh,
So
no.
I'm like,
my gosh.
oh, this isn't going to work, is it? So
oh wow.
yeah, it was kind of a weird situation. Took me a while to go back and use that service.
And
I
that
figured.
fairy and Tinkerbell suffocated. That was.
Probably.
Did they have to
How
fire?
big-
Did they have to fire hose water it out? Just
I
blow it
have
out.
no clue. It wasn't me. It was the person in front of me. So luckily,
Or I'm thinking of almost why is everything a movie reference for me? But like Willy Wonka, when the kid
Yeah.
gets stuck in the tube of chocolate, like that's what happened.
Oh,
no.
my gosh,
All right.
yes,
Well,
yes.
We'll
So-
raise the.
we brought it back
yeah,
up to
that's-
G already.
Yeah, we have to go
We'll
back.
raise the bar here. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay, listeners, we are back on track now
Yes,
after
yes.
a little.
I think so. Fingers crossed.
So, okay. Jamie, in our discussions with other owners that we've talked to on our podcast, we always want to know how the business is doing. Are you seeing growth? How do you manage and plan for that growth? I think that's the bigger question.
Yes. We've been very fortunate. We were always kind of, growing by, tips and, dribs and drabs. But I'd say actually what's amazing to me is during the pandemic, we had an immense growth, which we were prepared. We were lucky enough to stay open because we were kind of considered a very relevant, important thing being a financial services business. So we we always were able to be in our office. We had to be able to have to go out in the field to take care of customers if there was a terminal issue. So we were fortunate enough to be up and running. But what I couldn't believe was we were bracing ourselves for businesses to collapse in the
Right.
pandemic. And I think we were fortunate. We lost maybe, only 2 or 3 businesses of ours
that's
went
wonderful.
down, had to close.
So what business categories you must have not had very many restaurants then.
I had a lot.
Really?
It's
And they
one of our
survived?
biggest. It's
Okay,
amazing.
which I would think
to
it
me.
would be, of course.
Oh, yeah, but it's amazing
But they
to me.
survived, which is great.
And it was
Okay.
very much, it was because, I would say a majority of them, they were multi-generational or they were family owned. And they and that's again, this American
figured it
ingenuity
out.
that I love. They figured it out. They were, what do we have to do? I mean, they were bringing in family members that were working for free. They were bringing in retired family members. They were figuring out this curbside pickup. They were out there, and we would help them. They'd get a mobile thing or something. They switched and put a menu online so people could order and pick up, and just drive up. I mean, they figured out anyway. They shared space with other restaurants, so they all had one kitchen or something like that. I mean, they just figured it out. I was blown away. And what I loved was more than ever at that point, businesses are like, all right, we're in a crux here. The world, as I said, had to kind of stop spinning on its axis. And I couldn't believe how many businesses had the foresight to say, I'm going to revisit who I'm using. I'm going to figure out how to save money. I'm going to find out if there's new offerings. I'm going to find somebody else who maybe can partner with us. So we had quite an explosion over the
Amongst
pandemic.
all that chaos,
That's amazing.
they had that
They did.
That thought.
I mean, and we would do
Wow.
a bit of our, here I am with my lack of social media. I mean, we would do outreach, we would do articles, we would say, hey, please come and talk to us. And we definitely got business from that. But I think it was also fortunate enough that current customers were telling other fellow businesses, hey, if you're looking, when anyone was looking to save a dime anywhere, like, hey, you can't go wrong. Go talk to PolyPay. Figure out if they can work with something for you. So we had a true explosion over the pandemic, which was definitely not expected. We were bracing for worst of the worst, trying to work with other customers and see if we could cut rates or fees. And we did, in fact, our partners did that, and then we in turn did that. For a while, just so people could kind of, save whatever they could. But so, yeah, it was an amazing period of growth for us, truly.
There really are some silver linings coming out of COVID, not health-wise, but business-wise. So hopefully this is going to help us turn around. Actually, maybe that's what's led us into to our inflationary issues.
Yes,
Because
too much of a good thing.
Credit cards have been just, they've been going pretty much wild.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And it's a shame. I think what did I read? Millennials, I think on average they have about $400 in savings, and that's literally it.
Ooh.
And that's such a tight line to walk. I don't know how people can operate that way.
Right. But it's also the other issue of when you were talking about the ATM machines, millennials don't use cash.
No.
It's all card.
Yeah.
Somebody was telling me they were in line behind someone and the charge on their credit card was less than $1. And and it took forever to make that happen. But that's
and see, I think I'm strange. I have my note. I like paper. I like writing, and I have cash, and that's again my team drives them nuts. I don't use Venmo or any of those other things, and they do that back and forth. Oh, we bought you a sandwich, this, that, and it drives them nuts because every time they'll buy a sandwich from me, if they're out or running out, and I'll give them cash, and like, God, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, I don't know. Go to a strip club with it. I mean, here's your wand.
And she brought it back down to PG-13.
I think we're going down farther at this point.
I'm nothing if not consistent.
Exactly.
So
I love it. Yeah.
But I mean, they don't know what to do with it, and they see it as a burden. And I see it anytime anybody gives me cash. I'm like, oh, thanks. It's just there's that tangibility to me because as much as I love credit cards and obviously I tout them. To me, it's ether. It's yes, it's attached to, like you said, the money that you had to do very little to get. But to me, at the end of the day, I just like that tactile component of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like those $1 bills flat and all going in the same direction.
And I do that too.
Yeah.
And a weird thing when I was younger, my dad used to have old style, like a money clip with his initials on it that I have now. And he used to have like a set of ones for like tips or something, if something. And my job was every weekend, any ones he had that were newer, I had to iron them.
Oh my gosh.
I ironed them and I pressed them and I actually used starch on them in half so that they went in perfectly into his money clip.
Interesting.
Did you ever burn one?
No, thank God. I don't know what. He'd probably chase me out of the house. No, I don't know. I was literally, I was like 6 years old. I had like one of those mini ironing boards. There I was like that. I loved it. That was my job. Handkerchiefs on Sundays and his dollar bills. I ironed in half. Yes.
Interesting. Now, I wonder if he came up with that just to give you a task.
No, maybe it was. I mean, he was very much a cleanliness person, so I think he just. To this day, I love to iron. Friends call me; they're like, "Will you iron this?" I'm like, "Sure, I love ironing. Iron sheets, pillowcases."
Oh my God! Don't even.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that just he knew that would instill a good skill in me. I don't know. Yes.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
I think he was just being fussy. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a great memory.
Yes, it is. It's very visual. I can still see myself there. I thought it was so cool.
I want you to tell Madeline about that.
It was so cool. I thought, here I was. Wow. Yeah. And the friends look at me when they're like, what? They're like, okay. Good for you.
Yep,
okay.
there you go.
Wild Sunday. Here I am. Well, that's right. Yeah.
Well, we all got together at a special event for women in Central Ohio here this past summer. It was a great networking opportunity for everyone. Tell us, how does networking support you in building your company? You talked about it a little bit ago, but I want to enhance that a little bit. And do you have ideas for listeners on how to use their network? I mean, all of us are excited about what we do. We could talk about it ad nauseum, but the person you're talking to may not care at all.
No.
And that's part of networking, is to kind of read faces,
Yes.
body language.
Yeah, read the room. Yes.
So you can network efficiently.
Yes.
What have you seen
Yes.
that works for you?
And it was really difficult for me. I'm actually at my core a intense introvert. Intense introvert. I don't know, based on all my other comments, doesn't sound like it, but I am one of those people. But I do get my energy from being around other people,
Right.
which I love. So I don't know what hybrid that makes me necessarily. But when I first started out, I thought, well, what do I do? I just started looking for, chambers. I started looking for women's associations. I started to look for, and I just, I had to push my wallflower self out there. And a couple
It'd be draining at the end of the day, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I
You'd
still
just
to this
shut
day.
down.
Now I can understand when my dad came home from work, like on Fridays, and he was just like, he didn't want me to answer the phone. He's like, don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I thought, well, Dad, that sounds grumpy. Now I get it. It's like,
Yep.
I get in the car, I'm like, I'm not, someone's like, where do you want to go to dinner? I go, I'm not making any more decisions today.
Right.
You
Right.
pick, you
Right.
know. But I think you have to get out there. The first few events I went to, I just absolutely was glued to the wall, like I was at high school dance or something like that. I could not do it. But you have to make yourself just sit there and listen. And I literally talk to anybody. And my joke was, you go to an opening of an envelope. I mean, just go. Because you literally don't know. I have met so many people that I thought I had an idea who I was going to meet at that event. And turns out it was someone else there who was in a completely different industry that happened to know somebody else that would be of assistance. Well, like you, Miss Carol. I mean, we
Right.
just connected as well. And then you were teaching me all about the nonprofit world that I had, that I was so desperate to learn about. And again, this is just another beautiful example. I've been fortunate enough to have probably 20 or 30 experiences over the past few years of something like that. And I think people look at a certain event and, oh, it's not worth it, or it's not, why, what's the point? And some of them are certainly better than others.
Sure.
I think it all depends on, like a David or someone for the chamber who is, however you package the event, I think it has to be very specifically, it's always tied to the spirit of the head of those groups. And
Right,
if those people
right.
aren't engaged themselves, and I've run into some events, and actually, unfortunately, I will say a majority of the women's networking events that I have been into actually in the California side are very much lacking severely, where it almost feels like it's just a ladies who lunch experience.
Oh, goodness.
And I just feel like I don't, I'm giving you an hour and a half. I've given you $25 for my chicken salad. Can I please network? Can I please exchange cards? And I think a lot of people that go to those think it's just sort of a safe space. And I appreciate that, but I don't want to feel bad giving you my card. And going back to the male versus female thing, Brett, when I go to a mostly men's networking event, cards are flying everywhere. People are talking, people are exchanging. What can I do? Who do you know? Can I help you? Can you help me? And unfortunately, I feel like it's still the way with the women. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk. Well, why are you here? I mean, it's it's. I appreciate you're here for lunch, and sometimes they have great speakers and things like that. But I just don't understand. It's still it's much better in Columbus. There's some really great women's groups here that have blown all the other things I have found nationally out of the water. So I consider myself very lucky to have gotten into this environment. But I would have to say, on a whole, a lot of the women's networking groups nationally really still lack.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm just being more. Maybe because I'm older in the business now, it's just more evident to me as an entrepreneur. But I just think you have an hour and a half to do this. Like, I literally set goals for myself. I'm going to walk away with 4 cards.
Right.
I'm going to do
Right.
this.
Yeah, you do.
And,
You have
and
to do
women
that.
and women just. I feel like women just sort of sit there and they look at their phone and that was
Well, that's one thing. When I would teach networking workshops,
Yes.
I would always say the best networkers were the best listeners.
Yes.
You can't go into a networking event and have your mind someplace else.
No.
On your phone or whatever. That's not going to do you
Especially
any
if it's
good.
just, I mean, the expo was fortunate. That was an all-day thing, which is so you could take your time warming up to
Right.
the event.
Yes.
But how often do those come across? I mean,
Right.
usually they're an hour and a half lunch. People have just got about just enough time to go in and do what they want to do.
Right.
And I just find like,
Or an after-hours event that
Yeah.
if you're late, you miss out. If
or
they're
even
difficult.
sometimes you're
They're
not bringing your best self forward. You're exhausted. I mean, people
You're
are exhausted.
exhausted. Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they don't want to talk, but I at least fortunate.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm at that point in my life where you can't insult me because I'll just I'll walk right up to you, card, hi, what do you do? maybe, and that's okay. Literally, you tell me to take a hike. I get it. But tell me about you, because I don't know. I'm still at that point in my life where I almost want to start that, or I feel like I have started that mentoring aspect. And it's like, well, maybe I can help you. Don't knock me to the side. Let me see if I can help you. Because I knew if I was that person, I would say, oh, please, here's my card. Can I give you 5 minutes, Reader's Digest version of what I'm looking for?
And for those listeners out there who are sitting there saying, well, they sound like they could go and talk to anybody, because I'm an introvert also, but I'm also inherently nosy. And so I like to network to hear what other people are doing and to make those connections. But also, if you're having difficulty breaking through into networking, bring somebody with you.
Yes.
So bring a buddy with you. We would have job fairs, and I would literally watch somebody walk in, look at all of those employers, and it's really a networking event. That's what you're doing at a job fair, is trying to find who has jobs that match your skills. But I would watch people walk out. They would be scared to death.
Yes.
And so you just, you grab hold of them and go and introduce them to the first employer, and then they're okay. Yeah. But you just bring somebody or come up with a strategy and a goal.
Right.
All right. And I'm like you. I really am an introvert. Yeah. Though I think most people kind of go, you're really inside. It pushes me. I'm now used to that push. I really am. But I went to an after hours event a couple weeks ago, and I just wasn't there. I mean, mentally it's like, okay, stop by, did a couple of things. I actually walked away, but I saw somebody I knew that I hadn't talked to in a while. I wanted to reconnect on a project that they potentially wanted to do with me. It's like, turn around, Brett. Turn around, at least say something to them, because you need to catch up on their timetable, commiserate with them, empathize. They're putting out a book.
Yes.
And I didn't realize there was such a paper shortage that, those that are publishing books are on a huge delay, months delay because of paper. So that was my in, is to ask, hey, how's that going? And just that empathy question kind of thing. Walked away, felt very good. It's like, okay, Brett, you did the right thing. You stayed 5 more minutes, even though you just weren't feeling it.
And you made a touch point.
You made a touch point. So, but yeah, it's tough. It really is.
I have some days where I'm like, I'll stay in my house.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, come on, Jamie, you need to go out. Because I still, to the extreme of that, I think about my dad towards the ends of his life. And he goes, I remember I still have his Rolodex, which I'm so old. I use my own Rolodex. I love Rolodex. But, I remember counting, he had over 6,000 cards in his Rolodex. And I loved his line at the end of his life. I'm like, Dad, do you want to go with me to this event or something? Like, he goes, you know what? I don't want to know any more people. And I go, you know what? I don't blame you. He was mid-70s and he'd been working his whole life. And I think eventually, I hope maybe I'll get to that point. But I thought that he was a master networker, and I thought if that man says that, that's when you know you've. So I know I'm not there yet. So I know I've got runway ahead.
I think I finally got rid of my Rolodex only because I couldn't find the right size cards, to put in it.
I'll let you know. I've got backups.
Mine's in an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
So
I have both. I do both. I live in both worlds. Yes.
Yeah, because I have to be able to print out those mailing labels for Christmas cards.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's true.
So Jamie, you and I are the same on social media. You're saying your folks have helped your Instagram?
Immensely.
Yeah. Well, my question to Brett is, what is Instagram? It's really good.
My answer is, you don't need to go there.
Yes.
You really don't. It
doesn't make any difference.
Suckhole.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Snapchat is. I haven't gone near this TikTok thing. Who has this time? I don't understand. I know I'm old. I still read the paper every day. Physically read the paper. So I can't understand all of this online stuff. And
we're
watching
still
somebody
successful.
dance or something. I go, what is this? What's happening?
We are successful at our business, even if we're not doing nonstop social media. But social media's changed our lives.
Yeah. You have to make yourself. You have to get out there. I don't like it, but it does. And it does. Unfortunately, as much as I won't want to admit it, it does work. We do. We get people, we get customers because of that. So it's like, all right, I can't knock that then.
So that's my question to you. Which ones work? Which ones are you not seeing working as well for you or for new businesses, small businesses? When you hired somebody, At what point did you realize, oh my gosh, I have got to get somebody in here who knows this?
Yeah, so we had always had a great website. We were always updating it. I was very much here, the English major in me. I was doing articles, I was writing things, and kind of fun, tongue-in-cheek spins on the industry, or we alternated between serious stuff and fun stuff, and we were trying to post things. And I thought, yeah, that's good. It's just, but people, again, this is an industry, this is a world where people just don't have attention span anymore. So you just have to expect that people aren't willing to read a one-page article. And I go, okay, I have to figure that out. And, we could just see, we were watching our statistics, and we could just see, people were only looking at X and Y and Z. And we were even looking around at very traditional businesses around us, even our customers. I was like, God, they have Instagram and they're posting. I was like, and I know they're older than me, and they're doing this stuff. So I thought, okay, we have to figure this out. So we were hamstrung in doing it ourselves, Carol, like, every other month. My God, we thought it was great. We were posting something. And now, thanks to Renee, I'll make sure I'll take pictures from today so that we can post stuff. And like she makes sure we do 2 posts a week, 2 stories. I was like, I don't even know what that is. Okay. She just tells me, take pictures. I'm like, okay, and we'll come up with the things. So I didn't realize how powerful it was, but you have to be out there because you're quickly forgotten now. It's like the attention span is so short now. And in an industry like ours, it's it's exciting to me, but I'm sure people would be half asleep if you're talking about payment processing. So you have to be funny about it too, right? And quirky, and mixing helpful with also doing trends and silly things and things like that. So I think Instagram works well. I think you have to have a really good, robust website, which I think we do. And I think Facebook is on the way out. I think I think it's getting to be a bit of a stagnant platform. It's more of a share photos with your family kind of platform versus, an ever-changing landscape.
Are you getting any mileage out of LinkedIn?
No, we're not. And I get people ask me that a lot. And I thought, am I doing something wrong? Because it's almost like everybody has to have a LinkedIn. It's almost like everyone has to have a driver's license or something. Like everybody I told, I have a LinkedIn. Initially, the first year we posted some things on there, but and truly our follower base hasn't grown. But I noticed I come up in a lot of searches now. So I don't know if that does us any good. But no, we haven't posted in a very, very long time.
I almost see LinkedIn becoming more of a research tool as opposed to an advertising tool. If I meet somebody, the first thing I'm doing is checking them on LinkedIn
I think it's just
to get
the
their
CV.
background.
Yeah, it's like looking at someone's CV. That's how I use it.
But
which is valuable in itself.
It is.
It's fine.
It is. So it may not be growing business per se, but it is growing awareness of who you are and what you do.
And I would like to admit that this is my shortcoming, but I use it as if I haven't seen someone in a while, I'll go, what do they look like?
Yes.
I gotta go back and look at it. Or if they don't have a photo, I'm like, oh, damn. All right.
Yeah.
Well, but as we talked about with the networking piece, that's your step in going, okay, I now know who he looks like.
Yes.
I'll feel more comfortable going, are you Joe?
Yeah.
Got to meet somebody for coffee and going, I really want to know who this person is. So you're not asking 5 people as there's everybody sitting solo at a table going, Joe?
Yes.
Joe?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about that's an embarrassing moment.
Right.
That,
and it's not like you're dating where you're supposed to meet the woman that has the rose in the book or something like sitting there. Like there's no overt signals for who you're supposed to look for.
Well,
and you find a lot of interaction point. Oh, they went to a school that you went to, or there's someone they follow that you like that you follow as well.
Exactly.
So there's some the woolly points, as they call, that kind of connect people.
Yeah, exactly. So you talked a lot about social media. It sounds as though you're doing a lot of branding and utilization of social media. Is that helping with recruiting and finding employees, vendors, and such that you're getting that feel good that I want to work with you because I'm seeing that?
Yes, I think it's funny when it comes to kind of our permanent staff. The gentleman that just most recently joined us in California, it was ironic. He had worked in the building behind us for like 9 years, and we had been at this building for about 5 years. And he finally sent me an email through our inbox, and he was looking to leave his job. But we would see him. He would walk around the building. He was very active. And like during lunch, he'd walk around the building, and we'd see him. And it was finally I started noticing that he was walking around the building, and he reached out to us. And he's like, I want to know what you do. I've seen your website. Like, I'm looking to do something else. So I think for the more senior or the full-time people we have, Brett, I'm very much, I have to see you, touch you. I'm not. I can't do kind of that employment dating thing where there's sort of like an Indeed.com. I did in the beginning, and I think that led to a lot of people that were just talking to you, and then just that you were one of 50, that they were talking to. I think I'd like to find our team based on, somebody who knows us, who, there's sort of that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon aspect of it. But you're a known entity. I think whereas the platform and our social media and getting our presence out there, that's where we're really growing our referral advocate team, because it can be, they don't have to give us a huge commitment, because that's typically they're just doing something part-time for us, or they're just doing referrals and sending us leads. So I think everybody's comfortable in that relationship because it's not a full-time commitment. They can kind of be wherever they want to be. We have them all over the U.S. So that's where I think our social media and our online presence is really growing that program for us. But when it comes to our core team, like the people here or the people in California, somehow I have to have 1 or 2 nice touch points with those people before they can kind of come through the gate and chat with us.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Makes sense.
So we told Jamie we were going to have fun today, and we were going to just have a conversation, which has been wonderful. One of the things we always do is to ask our guests for their last words of wisdom, things that maybe we didn't talk about, or something to reiterate. The audience wants to know what it's like to be a small business owner out there.
Or tips on ironing dollar bills.
Yeah.
I think we could explore that a little bit more.
Starch is important. Let me say, I might always suggest Rowenta iron.
Starch?
It's pricey but worth it. It's like the Cadillac of irons. And I prefer faultless starch. Not a fan of Niagara.
Okay.
Prefer faultless. Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Just so you know. So that's my ironing tips of the day.
I have a great ironing tip,
and
but we won't even get
less starch
into
is more. Less starch is more. I think people saturate too much, and make sure that your plate is very clean. The ironing plate.
Okay.
A lot of people leave some water stains, things like that. So hopefully I've added some value there. There you go.
I told you, Brett's a great editor.
We have never had that words of wisdom. Never.
No, but to be honest, I think forgive me to regroup here. Come on, James, be professional.
I asked the question. No, I asked the question.
But you knew, Brett. You knew
what you
were
were
asking.
going to go. Oh, no, I knew you were going to go there. It's great. That's why I wanted
Here
you
I
to.
am. Where is it? Take hook out of mouth. Here I come. You know what? I think a biggest thing I tell people is you really need to listen to your gut. I know when you start a business, a lot of friends and people come out of the woodwork, and I know they care about you, and it's like suddenly they have all this advice to offer, and I'm like, but you work for a huge company too, and I know they want to give you, they want to help you and whatever. I think you really have to listen to yourself. I think you really have to listen to your gut. There have been times where I didn't, or because I thought, well, I don't know what I'm doing. But there's something innate as a human that you can just, if you're still and you listen to your soul and your mind. Every time I've done that since then, I have not regretted it. And so I know that sounds like a bit of a fuzzy piece of advice. I think that's it. I think you have to really listen to your gut, listen to your heart. I think a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to feel like they should have started a lot sooner. They're like, oh, I'm late. And I go, no. I mean, because frankly, looking back now at this, I wish I had started 5 years minimum earlier than I had. But I knew I didn't have the negative experiences, the bad environment, the bad bosses, the panic attacks, the knowing that I would never do X to somebody. I think that all set me up for something. So I want all entrepreneurs or people to think you're right where you're supposed to be, and we're not in charge here in the universe. I know that sounds a bit, next thing I'll be reading your tarot, but I think that's really the thing. I think everybody's where they're supposed to be in this journey, in this universe, and I don't want people to think that they've missed out because they're getting started at that point in time for some reason in the universe, and maybe they were just supposed to wait to have another experience, to meet another contact, to make a decision on what problem they were going to solve. I think that's a big thing. Yeah, exactly. You're not fully baked yet, so don't be upset yet.
Right,
I think that's a big thing. And I think the third thing I just have to say is I think you just have to get out there. You have to network. Because I guarantee all of the people I have met, you, Brett, Carol, it's all because of I went there for another reason, and then I also connected on a completely different front. And I think you have to realize that, you may go to events and you're not going to get to the people you were thinking to, but oh my gosh, you just met another 10 people that, who knows where that can go.
Right.
Yeah. Jamie, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate the time. Listeners, you can join us online, and also don't forget to check the show notes. We'll have all that stuff on the website as well, too. Contact information, resources. That website is lookingforwardourway.com, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on this and any of our podcast episodes.